them, when they hear the word void, they're to consider you a sovereign citizen. What void means is unenforceable. That's what that means.
Okay.
They don't want you to know that, obviously. So that was created by the deep state element within the CIA, FBI area of government, which is an agency, which is actually used to be an agency, is now an instrumentality, such as the Federal Reserve, things like that. These are not government, but they're owned by government, if you catch my drift. Mm-hmm. So the Federal Reserve is it's basically owned and operated by private money interests, but the government, they had to give it some name, some sort of standing, so they called it the Federal Reserve. It has nothing to do with our federal government, actually, when you look at it, when you research it. Very interesting. Okay. But let's get, I'm getting sidetracked. Familial association. That is under your First Amendment. You have the right to associate. And let's be frank. Expressive association also includes the right to not associate. Okay? So you have the right to not associate with any agencies trying to take away your children. Okay? And that comes from a child support technique that us in the child support community found. But what I've done on this card is I've adapted it to be used for everyone, because it really should be. And what we have is the journalism gets violated because they make it a crime for you to record a court proceeding for your records, so that you can ascertain that proper adjudication and proper rule of law has been upheld. So they've taken away that right. They're the agencies violate the intangible right to honorable services when they dishonorably do things like I've seen them doctor urinalysis test results. I've seen them do all sorts of things, like get medical psychiatrists involved. You had the gender affirming care, which we're going to get into that in a minute. There's some things about that people need to know. Okay, I'm not here to denigrate or degrade anyone for their choice of gender. What I am here to say is that program was being manipulated against whoever was trying to use that to have any sort of rights or whatever. Children only have the rights that are contained within their parents' boundaries until they turn 18. That's not affirming your gender that's not a right that you can observe till you're an adult. Mm-hmm. Because that has to do with a personally protected liberty interest in the right of procreation, which is protected under the First Amendment right to familial association. A lot of people don't know about this, but the Supreme Court has upheld the right of familial association going back generations. The nuclear family unit, the husband and wife, that's paramount. Okay, they deprive you of the right to honest services when they dishonor you by collecting the incentive payments off the back end of these contracts for bribery, for expedited this is in their statute, expedited process of revocation of parental rights without a hearing. Can you tell me what amendment that violates? That would be the Fifth Amendment. Okay, they're also well, not in this case, but in child support, it's they throw 666 at you, and that's the mark of the beast. So that's also a violation of your religious liberty if you choose to go that route, and it is legitimate. So the 14th Amendment, security, or no, it's the Fourth Amendment. My bad. Fourth Amendment, security of persons. The warrant clause: a warrant shall not issue but upon probable cause. Okay, probable cause is somebody had a reason to make a legal affidavit statement against you, supported by oath or affirmation. That oath or supporting affirmation that they're talking about is a police report. So you're reporting to a police officer, or you're recording an affidavit in front of a notary public. That's what it takes to issue a warrant for a private person. Now, can you tell me, did CPS go to a judge to get that warrant? Did they go to a judge and describe you, your child, the conditions of your house? Because the only way they could have done that is if you let them in your house. They don't have a warrant. If they have a warrant, it's because you either let them in or they've procured it maliciously. Okay? We're gonna move on for that one. That's the security of person. You have the right to the security of your paper person in effects. That'd be your biological property as well. You don't have to let them in the house. Nothing legally says you have to let them in the house, even if they have a police officer with them. Okay. Also, just so people know, when the police are getting involved in these CPS, that's a contract. Anybody who involves themselves in that becomes part of the contract. You become a contractor. You're not a cop anymore. You've expressly threw off your oath of office to violate somebody's rights. Yep. So that's something also that needs to be addressed.
Okay. Can I ask you? I know. I'm like, wait, I want to ask a question. Go ahead, Tiffany. Go first.
42 USC 192. If you read it, it clearly states that no federal agent, agency, etc., if the head of the household says you are not coming in, they have to obey that.
Yep. That's correct.
Okay, well, real quick, with a question that I have, just because now that I'm thinking back, my situation ended me up into temporarily staying in a motel because they told me I had to separate from my husband because he was technically the problem. I signed a safety plan stating that I wouldn't bring the kids, but I signed a safety plan stating I wouldn't bring the kids around my husband, their father, but we were at a hotel. How they found out we were at a hotel, I don't know. But then cops came to the hotel, forcibly made me open the door and remove my children, meaning there was no CPS people, social workers, caseworkers there. It was only the police.
Abuse of legal process. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
Those are four crimes that just got committed in the case right there.
Wow. All righty, people out there listening, take all this down. Hopefully it can prevent another child from being taken. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
It violates the warrant clause because only a wet ink signature hand signed warrant from a judge is a proper warrant. I've had one of these issued on me. It was a digital warrant. I got stuffed in an armored car and dragged 3 counties away and got subjected to an unfair plea choice in my lack of knowledge of the case or of any of my rights whatsoever. I didn't know any of this. They stuffed me in an armored car, but now they ain't ever going to do that again. Nope. No more armored cars for me. Violation of the separation of powers doctrine. I actually found that in the adoption foster care codes. The CPS has been left to the state codes, but you can find them in the state administrative codes. What the heck's going on? How come I can't hear now?
No one was talking. Can you hear me?
Oh. I was like,
Darren came on.
I thought somebody was talking, bro. But yeah, so if a violation of the separation of powers doctrine in that an executive branch function is being allowed to use a judicial branch or an executive branch agency is being allowed to use a judicial branch function, whether that be state or federal. It's also a violation of the Fifth Amendment due process when they don't listen to your documentation, when they don't allow you to speak in court, when they take your children without a warrant, which they likely do not have. If they did have, it's probably invalid. You might want to take a look at that warrant and see, is that coming from a court of valid jurisdiction or not? Okay. And then the Sixth and Seventh Amendment right to trial by jury gets deprived by statute and child support, but I'm sure they got stuff for that. Because and if you go back to the due process, expedited interstate placement of children violates due process. Okay. Expedited anything on these situations. So what I learned from a whistleblower from HHS was that speed is not the proper metric when dealing with children. You know, so we got, I'd say, Eighth Amendment cruel and unusual punishment, because you're taking away somebody's children. Quite frankly, back in the day, we used to hang people for less than this. We really did. We got the Ninth Amendment right to resist unlawful arrest and to resist arbitrary intervention by the state in the privacy of the family sphere, which would be in your home. In these little pamphlets they hand out for divorce and all these things, they're pushing more divorces. They're pushing more. They want they're incentivizing the system that is.
That's exactly what
hurting
happened to
children.
me. That's exactly what happened to me. They basically said, if you don't leave your husband, then you will not get your kids back. They even told my kids that. They would come to visits with me and tell me, Mom, and I'd say, yes. Have you left Dad yet? Why? Well, we're not going to come home unless you leave Dad. So much for reunification as a whole, correct?
Correct. And in fact, it used to be about reunification, but they put in new statutes. They overrid that to permanent adoption. Yeah, I know. It's all that's all coercion. That's coercion. Uh-huh. Well, it's all coercion, bro. That's all. That's all criminal. That's all. It's all criminal. But
Are you talking?
the thing about it is that they don't do that. Instead, they expedite interplace for adoption. Uh-huh. It has that infrastructure that was originally built there. Listen, man. Yeah, yeah. You're right about that. You're right about that. It has that. It has that structural framework. It does. But what has been laid on top of it was done by several men. One would be Theodore Roosevelt, and the other would be Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton.
Um,
Yeah.
there's also, and I want to say in 2019 or 20, there is a Marriage Protection Act that went into place that also falls under religion. They can't make you divorce your husband, right? I mean, if he's whipping your ass,
That is
okay, you need to
unlawful
divorce him.
interference in the privacy of family. Yeah.
Right.
That violates the Chesney versus Sugarman. Yes, it does, because the right of religion is supposed to be well, the father or the mother chooses that, not the state. Definitely not the state, because under the First Amendment, what can Congress not do? Pass any law relating to religion. Yeah, dude. It all goes full circle. And then you got the 14th Amendment Equal Protections Clause, Privileges and Immunities Clause. You've got the Separation of Powers Doctrine that it violates. It violates the Supremacy Clause. It violates a lot of things, man. This violates all your fundamental rights, which are they're given to you by God when you're birthed into this realm, and your parents through their biological, acquiescence. But
I have a
we're
question
moving
now that
on.
I
That's the Constitution. That's the Constitution that it violates in a nutshell. So CPS
real quick, I have a
violates
question,
just as much.
Adrian. Sorry,
Yes.
can you hear me? Just because
Yes.
when I think of it, I want to ask because I usually then will forget. What about in an instance like per se with me? My case opened up in August of 2020, and I gave birth to my youngest 2 months later in October. They literally took my youngest from the hospital when he was born because they said I had an open case. Is that even anything that makes sense as far as your rights? Meaning, can you
No,
have?
that's complete. That was a complete violation.
That's what I figured. And to fast forward, when my case was
And it
over,
could have been instituted by the OBGYN, just so you know.
it was what?
It could have been instituted by the OBGYN that you had, just so you know.
No, they knew that I was pregnant when they opened my case because obviously I was 7 months pregnant. It was very much
Okay.
visible. But the ironic thing is that's the child that I end up losing in the end because the foster parents wanted to adopt. Therefore, I lost my rights. But
No.
because my mother was a legal guardian of my two older boys and did not want to adopt, that's why I still have a chance at getting my two older boys back because I'm just going to terminate the guardianship. But the youngest one, yep, they won. They got my child that wasn't even born when my case opened.
Here's the thing. Even if you have an open case with children that are already born, CPS is not supposed to get involved in your pregnancy because the child that you're carrying has nothing to do with that case.
Exactly. That's what I thought. But they tried to state it as if you have children removed, therefore they can't be in your care, then that's why your youngest now that's born can't be in your care.
That's not true.
No,
I had a
that's not
CPS
true.
case, right?
Yeah.
Well, I was fighting for my kids because of my ex-husband. Long story. Anyway,
Somebody
they
lied there.
terminated the parental rights of my middle daughter. I was pregnant with my fourth child, and they never touched her.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me too when you can have one child in your home, but then they take another one. But again, I feel like that's all because of the funding that they can get or whatever it is that they want out of that child, their agenda, like they always say, right?
Yep.
Meaning the foster parents that had my child, it was their first placement. They ironically couldn't have children of their own. Gee, I wonder why God didn't bless them with their own children. And they came into fostering because they wanted to adopt. That's exactly what they wanted. So they already knew their agenda from day one, even though they played me as far as they could. And then here we are at my TPR hearing, and they have now hired they had hired their own attorney, the foster parents. And outside of court, I had my mother-in-law now show up that they didn't know who she was. So she sat real close to them and overheard their conversation. And they were telling their attorney, we need to hurry this case along so that we can keep our son. And then they let my husband, yep. And then they let my husband come and visit with all three of our children the day after court that day, because little did we know that they were going to finish our case, even though they said we'd be taking a break, a recess, and coming back the following day. We never did go back. We heard that day at that visit that our case then was finished, closed, and we lost our rights to our youngest. They even came out and offered us a plea deal, basically. They did it with us not being present because we were given permission to leave early that day because
Have an issue.
well, me and my husband were not there. The foster parents were there.
Point judgment.
Yeah. Wow.
No.
So they had to wait till we were present again?
They're actually supposed to have you there. They can't be making these decisions without both of you present.
Yeah, I think our CPS lawyer, our court appointed lawyer.
That might have been how they got it. Definitely
But
not.
our court appointed attorney was there. So you're saying then it was okay? Yes. We only went to court once, right?
Pounds. Where the mandamus?
Did we only go to court once, right? I think for the TPR hearing.
Depends on the state,
Yeah, I think we only went once.
But here's something I got to say. Okay.
Yeah.
The family court system that we have in this country causes these things right here.
Yep.
Divorce, abortion, gender dysphoria, gender affirming care, where physicians supporting transgender surgery for minors and removal of parental rights if they don't change their child's gender by consent. You got parental alienation. You got a mass incarceration of parents. You got a mass amount of youth suicide and non-custodial parents committing suicide. You got school shootings. You got the silver bullet method, and it's a form of eugenics and sterilization, really. That's what I got to say on the subject matter of family court, but we'll get into CPS. I mean, they're basically these are your rights you got: freedom of speech, right to travel, freedom of movement, right to securing and defending property, equal protection of the law. You got the right to vote. You got the right to trial by jury in both civil and criminal matters. You got fundamental right of being born free, equal, and independent. You got the freedom of journalism, the right to fair legal proceedings, the right to access the court, the inalienable parental rights of directing the care, custody, and raising of your human offspring. You got the right to petition government for redress. You got the right to report a crime. You have a liberty interest in procreation that is protected, which means that's protected until you're an adult, which means you can't castrate a child. Okay? Freedom against re-prosecution. You got the right to remain silent during an investigation and not self-incriminate yourself, which is a privilege, because they could put you in a star chamber where you don't have no rights. Freedom from debt, bondage, peonage, involuntary servitude, slavery. You got freedom of religion, the right to familial association, the right to not expressly associate. You got the right to bear arms, the right to form a militia, the right to own weapons for defense, the freedom of self-defense, the right to familial and religious privacy, to medical confidentiality of patients, to not contract, to choose your employment how you see fit. You got the freedom of not being forced to quarter troops in your home. You got the freedom against unlawful trespass on your property or domicile. You got the right to gather peaceably. You got the right against the right to protest, freedom from false warrants. You got the right against unlawful search and seizure and unlawful arrest, immunity to unconstitutional statutes, immunity to foreign prosecution. You got the right to truth and evidence, intangible right to honorable services, right of consensuality. If you don't consent to something, you don't have to consent to something. The only time you have to consent to something is when you've hurt someone physically in some way, shape, or form. Freedom from being physically assaulted would be the next one. You got the right against theft, the freedom of the press, the freedom of person, your personality, who you are, who you want to be. You got the freedom to do what you want to do and be who you want to be, not what somebody else tells you have to be, right? As far as you're not violating anyone else, then it's a problem. So there's a lot. You got grand jury on capital offense, double jeopardy, due process, just compensation. You got the speedy trial. You got the public trial. You got the right to record court proceedings.
Not to interrupt you, but maybe I wanted to touch on this before our show's over. We still have 27 minutes or so, but you were going to mention something about, for instance, if you get your parental rights taken and you lose your child, what necessarily can you do to not think that all the doors have been closed in your face and you'll never have a chance at getting them back?
For those who have lost hope, I ask you to read certain Supreme Court case law that I'm going to expound on right now, and that is okay. We are going to start with Washington versus Glucksberg, a Supreme Court case in which the Supreme Court ruled that there's not a fundamental secured liberty interest in physician-assisted suicide, unlike Canada. Okay. But there is a fundamentally protected liberty interest in parents' rights to direct care, custody, and the life of their basically the future of their human offspring. That's Washington versus Glucksberg. Okay, the court ruled against a physician because the child was trying to commit physician-assisted suicide, and the parent didn't want it to happen. We go back. If your parental rights have been revoked by the state, I ask you to look up Santosky versus Kramer, because in that Supreme Court case, it held that even in a court proceeding where custody is contested based upon abuse or neglect, even in that proceeding, you contain constitutionally protected fundamental parental rights. They cannot be waived. They're inalienable. They cannot be waived, given away, ordered away, taken away. All that is void. It's all void. It's all a lie. And I challenge you to everyone to look into all the Supreme Court case law dealing with parents. Santosky versus Kramer, Maine versus Thibodeau, Pierce versus Society of Sisters, Parham versus JR, Smith versus Organization of Foster Families, Moore versus East Cleveland, Prince versus Massachusetts, Duchesne versus it's Duchesne versus Sugarman, my bad, Turner versus Rogers, ex parte Davis. Yeah, you know, you want to
Can I
look into
ask a real naive question about this, though?
Stanley versus Illinois. These Supreme Court cases will tell you not even the other parent can take away your rights from you. The only one that can remove your rights from you is clear and present danger and sexual abuse to your child. That's it.
Adrian, can I ask a naive question as far as when you refer to these case laws, being like as if I was a fifth grader, what necessarily does a parent have to do when, for instance, you have case law that supports a certain thing? What necessarily would you do to say, okay, well, this case law says this, so therefore now
when you use case law, legally speaking, a judge might disregard any use of that case law if you haven't read the case.
Okay.
So you really got to go read these cases through and come to a logical conclusion. Draw a logical conclusion from what you read from the case law supporting your rights, and that's where you get it. They can't touch it. They can't touch it after that.
So if I were to go into court and say, if I go into court and say, Judge, you know, I have this case law and I have this logical conclusion of stating this happened to me, it happened to them. They got their kids back. I get mine back. Now give them back. I mean, how simple is that as far as what would a parent do?
That's you file a complaint, and that's 1983 civil rights lawsuit. Look up how those are done. If you need further information, I have tutorial videos for that. I'm doing a better one where I have voice on it.
Okay.
Yep,
Tiffany or Darren, do you guys have any? Tiffany or Darren, do you guys have any specific questions or comments that you want to have Adrian? I know this Rachel person keeps commenting, and I think she had asked a question earlier, but I only see it as it pops up on the TV on the side here. So I don't know if any of you guys can see her comments, and maybe, I don't know, she might have had something in the previous part. But anyways, if you guys want to touch anything with Adrian or have him addressed, go ahead.
I'll briefly touch on one thing, is that if you look at United States versus Lee, they don't get immunity. Marbury versus Madison states an unconstitutional law is void. What did we find in Washington versus Glucksberg? Parents have a fundamental means they can't take it. They can't infringe on that. So you have a right you have a right to direct the care, custody of your offspring. If they ever do determine that you don't have parental rights, it's only temporary due to Santosky versus Kramer. And Supreme Court cases of one state are applicable in all other states. Article 4, Section 1, that would be the full faith and credit clause. I do believe I might have got my article wrong, but the full faith and credit clause of the United States Constitution guarantees that. So
Well,
these Supreme Court case rulings can be used anywhere.
what did Rachel say? I don't know. Write it
I'll
down.
have to check that out.
Um,
So
She said, what happened to the CWAP kids is all I wanted to really know about. This last case, because they did. I don't know. Your cat is cracking me up, Derek.
but
so Adrian,
when they violate all this here, they are committing treason. 5 USC 7311, 5 USC 3331, 18 USC 1918. You go Google these statutes and you look at 18 USC 242, 42 USC 1981, 1983, and 1985 Section 3. And you're going to find, if you go Google these United States code, you're going to find they're doing some pretty heinous stuff here, because it's economic exploitation of children, but I was unable to find any statutes on the books on that.
so Adrian, because not everybody's like us.
Mm-hmm.
I think he muted him. Oh, never mind.
What
ahead.
do you do if a judge tells you that the Constitution doesn't apply in their courtroom?
You tell them, well, I'll see you in another courtroom.
That's what she said. That's what you said,
You leave
Tiffany,
the
right?
courtroom and you go to a new one, and you put all you do is put his name right on there. He has to have an
Okay.
oath if he has authority.
So what do you do when they tell you that the Supreme Court doesn't rule their courtroom?
On the light.
I'm sorry, the Supreme Court is the law of the land. And the judges in each state are bound thereby. Same as the Constitution.
So
That'd be
I
Marbury
know.
versus Madison is what I say to that. Go look at that Supreme Court case law. It'll tell you it was the first Supreme Court case in which the Supreme Court ruled the law unconstitutional that was signed in by Congress, or that was signed by the president and voted on by Congress.
So
Yep.
I know that you watch Child Support Made Simple, right? Because I
Yep.
watched too. I like Chris. So I've been telling people, because I memorized his saying, right? I had somebody tell me that the judge told them to sit down and shut up. And I said, what did you do? He said, well, I sat down and shut up. I said, no, you should have said, the butts stop here, Mr. Lee.
That's a very good, easy way to remember Butts versus Economou and United States versus Lee. Two Supreme Court case law that, when put together, states that any officer of the states or of the federal government that violates the Constitution does not get immunity from that violation.
I knew you would know what I was talking about.
Uh-huh. I use them too.
So how do you get parents to stand up to these courts? Because the first thing they say is, oh, you're in contempt of court. I'm going to put you in jail if you don't sit down and shut up.
Okay, well, here's how you handle contempt. Will that be civil or will that be criminal? I need to know the jurisdiction so I can know the rules of procedure being applied so I can accurately represent myself or my legal person. Can you provide me with the rules?
Are you hireable, Adrian?
The Amendment gives me the right to know the jurisdiction being applied, and it gives you the duty to inform me. Now, I don't think you'd be in violation of your oath of office if you upheld your duty under the Constitution and provide me with the tools that I need for an accurate defense.
So,
Adrian, have you ever had any success stories in helping parents actually get their kids back? Because it seems like if you haven't, you should maybe be. You should be hireable.
Just remember
I'm working
one
on
thing.
I'm not a lawyer. I don't have a legal degree,
I know.
but I certainly will help educate.
Adrian, I'm going to give you the best advice. It was so I should have had a V8. And just read between the lines, everybody. The first one to the courthouse wins.
I don't get it.
First one to the courthouse wins.
Yep. Get to filing.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yep.
I get it.
The best, I'll put it this way. The best defense is what? A good offense. And I highly suggest the 42 USC 1983 civil complaint form. I highly suggest a criminal complaint form to the FBI and all the other agencies that deal with human trafficking, because that's exactly what this is.
Somebody just asked a question.
Network.
Someone asked a question. How do you file a brief? We're not attorneys here, number one, but maybe Adrian could touch on that a little bit.
It's a brief statement. It's a brief affidavit to the judge. You're just explaining to them the brief, poignant points, the main points of your case to the judge, just briefly. He doesn't. It's to get him accustomed to both sides of the case before he comes in, so he knows what's going on before he even comes in there.
I think they're referring to if you're appealing your case. Maybe how do you file like your opening brief? Isn't that what it's called when you're trying to appeal? Yeah. There's a lot of steps to it. I know Mr. Davis has touched on it before. Maybe Rachel or whoever asked that question, I think it was somebody else. You can go under Mr. Davis's platform here that I'm doing the show under, and he has many short videos, and I know he's done several on
these are
steps.
highly complex cases with highly complicated
you need
issues.
an attorney. You can't do it on your own. He's already said that many times.
I wouldn't say that, and there's a reason behind that. But if you can get a good civil rights attorney that goes by the old ways, that actually represents you good, keep them. There ain't many. There ain't many nowadays. That's just opinion. Again, I don't hate any attorneys. I'm not an attorney. The only reason I say that is 7 Corpus Juris Secundum, subsection 2 and 3, that states that when you get an attorney, you become a ward of the court. You can't speak. You got.
That's what somebody was just saying right now. Someone said, because I want to file a 42 USC 1983, but don't know how to write it.
I think, that? I got tutorials coming on that. No worries. I'm filing my own.
Dr. Death, get in contact with Adrian. He posted his info in the beginning of the show that you can watch on replay.
And you can get all these forms off uscourts.gov. Every form is on that website.
Also,
even with instructions.
Also on my Facebook group, my files tab has everything everybody ever needs. And I also have a website that has everything everybody ever needs on it.
And just so everybody knows that's watching this show, our guest this evening, Adrian, does all of this just
educational.
What's that?
It's all educational. Oh, and one more thing. I don't make any money off of any of this. That's
what I was trying to say. I was trying to give you a little, I don't know, boost of credit, because from at least my end, he does all of this just out of the kindness of his heart, because he was affected with his own personal kind of child support, but CPS is, hand in hand. But all of this knowledge that he gives out on all of his various platforms, it's not like he's making money off of. I mean, and he's doing this just, not getting paid, and just wants to help people.
I've watched the system damage families like this for years as I was growing up. I didn't really say much about it, but I knew.
I have even
it was just natural gravitation.
As to tell people when CPS shows up at their door to already have the 1983 complaint form, and when they show up, right, say whose name goes right here, yours, your supervisor, whose name goes here.
And that I got color of law form. I got citizen version and non-citizen version.
I got 400
If they
copies.
play you on some, oh, you're a United States citizen, just reissue it with the word citizen removed.
Darren, you got anything to say? You've been so quiet.
Mic on. Turn your mic on.
Okay.
What? Oh,
Wow.
Good.
well, we have about 10 minutes left. So whatever you guys
Darren and
want to.
I learned yesterday before the powers to be kicked our channel off
Isn't that crazy?
that SSA 1101D actually states that no one is to remove a child from their home.
Look at that.
Hey, quick question. What is it that YouTube does when they turn off hold on, I got the TV playing. Like when they stripped your show last night. What is it that happens that alerts people that do that?
They've been monitoring us because they don't like what we're talking about. They're
I know, but do you think it's like the YouTube people? Like who is it that like
it's probably because I'm here. It's probably because I don't know though, but that's just because I've been being silenced for quite some time. I don't know if you guys have been experiencing on your own personal end too. Probably have. They've been doing that over at Facebook. If they don't like what you say, they're going to come shut you up. It's quite ridiculous. I actually did like 3 videos on that because they wouldn't leave me alone.
Well, it started with Darren's internet. My computer would not come up yesterday, and I got tired of messing with it. Then when we did the show, right? When we did the show, Darren's computer froze. I couldn't get in my email. It was terrible.
and the guest actually got kicked off first, right? Yeah. That's crazy.
That was like me the other day when I was getting ready to come on the show for the Trump video.
Yeah.
My phone crashed. The whole thing shut right off right before I was supposed to come on. So I was like scrambling to turn it back on and everything. I'm like, geez, what the heck?
I'm surprised your Trump video actually went through all the way and they didn't cut you guys off. By the way, have you heard anything back?
Oh, they did. They blocked me. They blocked me from sharing it.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
I shared it everywhere.
Darren, have you heard anything yet from that or no? Well, we have about 7 minutes left. Is there anything else you want Adrian to talk about or you want to talk about?
Well, Adrian's hooked up with our community now. So Tiff and the Punisher is Monday through Thursday, 7 Eastern time to 7:15 to 8:15.
How about you guys just do your Wednesday show with me?
We'll talk about
it. To be continued.
This is my bedtime. Are you kidding me?
Oh.
I get up at 4 in the morning.
Oh, man.
Man, I was up all night arguing with Elon Musk hecklers.
Oh, my God. But Adrian is coming on Sunday. What time is your show?
That'd be it's 7 to 9. 7 to 9, and then that's Eastern Standard. If you're in the mid-range of the country, that's 6 to 8.
Where do you do your show on? YouTube or what platform?
I'm with these guys. I'm gonna be with these guys this time around.
Oh,
So
okay, I get it.
if you go to Adrian, if you go
What,
to
Darren?
Adrian's channel, like and
He's
share.
like, we're absorbing everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. Tiff and the
Good, man. We
Punisher,
need
like
more
and
people.
share. What is it? Gunning for CPS. Gunning for CPS.
You have Bringing Brenda Back. You have you got Paige. What's the one with Paige? I forget.
Oh, don't let me forget, Darren. I got that intro video music for you for whatever you got going for my show on the Sunday.
Darren, tell everybody what the shows are so that they can like and subscribe to our channel too. Everybody's
Yes.
channel, our group.
And again, I do the show. I do this show under an attorney, Mr. Vincent W. Davis. This is how I also met Darren originally, that used to do a show with
Yeah, if
me.
you got a good attorney, keep them. Keep them.
No, this is, I feel like, the only attorney I've ever actually felt like that gets children home and really cares from his
Some of them
heart.
are still good. Some of them out there are still good, and they're
No,
fighting the
yeah.
fight.
But that's where a lot of people have found this show. Therefore, the reason why Darren was listing all of his is because, he obviously broke off on his own and now doing all these. But again, anybody that has an affiliation with CPS is going to need the support from anywhere and everywhere. So that's the main reason why I still do this show. But again, going forward, this show's on every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And if anybody wants to be a guest, like Adrian today, they can just contact the number listed on the bottom there, that 888 number. And our producer, Grace, will get you set up. And then you can come on and share your story, how you have been affected by CPS. But yeah, I mean, the show's pretty well. Bob Pace is the other host that does his show, and he advertises that if you come on the show and be a guest, that I believe you get a 15-minute or 30-minute consultation with Mr. Davis. But I'm not sure if I'm allowed to state that with my show here, so I'm not going to really speak about that. But there's another host that does a show every day, twice a day, 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. Pacific time. So if you want to be a guest on his show, do the same thing, call the number, and the producer will get you set up, and then you can see about what kind of promotion goes with him. But it's the same attorney, so same thing. As long as you come on and participate, you can get some services for free, maybe from him, and see where you stand with your case and where you're at. But other than that, anybody that's commented or asked questions, if you weren't addressed, feel free to reach out to any one of us. And Adrian posted his contact info in the beginning of the show, so just rewatch the show and you can get it there. But other than that, like Darren likes to do on his show, does anybody have any last words before we get out of here? If not, then we can go ahead and
back.
What's that? Go get your kids back. Yes, please. The hope is out there with all of us. Darren,
Oh, and one
Tiffany, you
more
want to say
thing.
anything? Yeah, go
Parental
ahead.
rights are inalienable.
There you go. All right.
D. 1101D.
Oh, Darren, promote your book. Darren has a book. And Tiffany and Darren are also in the process of working on another book, I think. So hopefully we'll hear more about that soon. Okay, Grace, I think we're all finished here. Everyone have a good night. And we don't have music. It's not special like your show.
That's all right.
It's the love is there. Okay, Grace. Bye, everyone. Thank you, Tiffany, Darren, and Adrian. Good night.
Guys, have a good night.
right, everybody. Well, as you can see, we are done over there with Deidre with the Mr. Davis show there. It was a good show there tonight with Obsidian. So stay tuned tonight for let's see, who do we got tonight? What day is today? Wednesday? All right, looks like our next show is going to be CPS Victims Hunting Justice, 10 o'clock. So make sure you guys sign in for that. But thank you guys for joining us again tonight. We really do appreciate the support and everything. You guys all know that. So make sure to bring it back. Brenda, you guys heard the list. You know what's going on. You guys have gotten this down. So we'll see you all at 10 o'clock. Have a good one, guys.
When I began this battle, my soul was so damn fragile. I was looking at life through a fog. I lost my baby girl and they killed my dog. I was laying on the bottom feeling sad, thinking about doing bad things, raging fucking mad. I couldn't understand why I was chosen. Then it led to my rage and explosion. I am the one who can make this better. It's my job to make things right. I need to pick myself up. It's time for my biggest fight. Wrap your kids in the Bible. Wrap your kids in the flag. CPS is from the devil. Y'all know that it's a fact. I'm a father that went to jail. I cherish my daughter. It was nothing when they come for her and me. There should have been a slaughter. Stand with us. Make parenting great again. Abolish CPS. Ambush with the black SUVs. They come armed. They came for me and they came for her. Stand with us. Make parenting great again. Abolish CPS. They took her from me. She's across the state. Gone for a year now. Taken away. All these people who have written me off. I'm here to show my face and tell you you're wrong. I never was as good as you. And for the record, we know that's not true. I'm not trying for a comparison. How dare you, you're embarrassing. I don't wanna be as good as anyone else. I fight this battle, I fight for myself. I am the one who can make this better. It's my job to make things right. I need to pick myself up. It's time for my biggest fight. I don't care about your judgment, I'm glad you gave us this test. But when your life is over, will your heart sleep quietly in your chest? I've got more life to live. As a matter of fact, it's just beginning. I've been given a challenge and my daughter is waiting. It's a fight I can't walk away from, a new life we are creating. So why you sit there mouth full of hating? Be sure my mind is planning on invading. I've got a war to fight and I'm on. I won't give up. I need to win. This is bigger than you. I don't expect you to understand. I am the one who can start over. It's my job to make things right.